The garage was silent, except for the mocking laughter of a man who thought he owned the world. "If you fix this engine," he sneered, pointing at the massive, half-dead machine, "I'll give you $500,000. He expected the black woman in greasy overalls to shrink back, to fold under pressure, to prove his prejudice is right. But instead, she tightened her gloves, wiped her brow, and whispered the words that made his smirk vanish. "Deal." What happened next would shatter reputations, rewrite destinies, and expose a truth no one in that glittering engineering hall was prepared to face. It all began at the International Engineering Expo, held in Houston, a place where billion-dollar companies unveiled their latest innovations. Engines that could power cities, machines that could transform industries, and the brightest minds competing for recognition. Among them was Marcus Crane, a world-renowned engineer with a reputation for arrogance. His company had just unveiled a cutting-edge prototype engine, a monster-sized machine meant to revolutionize fuel efficiency. But there was a problem. The engine had failed. Spectacularly. Crowds of investors, journalists, and engineers surrounded the machine, watching as Marcus barked orders at his team. But no one could fix it. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died every time it was restarted. And then, in the corner, she appeared. Amara Johnson, a young black female mechanic, barely 30, with calloused hands and grease-stained boots. She wasn't dressed like the engineers in their crisp suits. She looked like she belonged in a local auto shop, not at a billion-dollar expo. She had been invited by chance. Her small garage had won a community award, and someone had gifted her an entry ticket. She wasn't supposed to be standing near the prototype. She wasn't supposed to say anything. But when Marcus screamed his engine was too advanced for unskilled fools, Amara chuckled softly under her breath. It was just loud enough for him to hear. Marcus spun around, his eyes narrowing. "You think this is funny?" he growled. Amara met his glare. "Calm. Steady. No. I just think maybe the problem isn't the engine. Maybe it's the people trying to fix it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one dared insult Marcus Crane. Not here, not in front of the press. He stepped closer, towering over her. "And I suppose you think you could do better?" Amara shrugged, her tone casual but confident. "I know engines. They all speak the same language. I can try." That's when he laughed. Loud, cruel, dismissive. "This engine is worth $10 million. It's not a rusty pickup truck from your neighborhood shop. But fine." He gestured dramatically, soaking in the audience's attention. "If you fix this engine, I'll give you $500,000. The room erupted in laughter. Cameras clicked. Engineers smirked. They all thought it was a joke. But Amara extended her hand. "Deal." Silence fell. Marcus's smile faltered for the first time. The spotlight shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't Marcus's failure on display. It was Amara's test. Whispers filled the hall. "She doesn't stand a chance. She's going to embarrass herself. This will be over in 2 minutes." Amara ignored them. She approached the engine with quiet focus. Her hand skimmed over its surface, feeling the vibrations, listening to the faint whine of its stalled systems. She pulled out a small toolkit from her backpack. Simple, worn tools that looked almost laughable next to the polished, high-tech equipment Marcus's team had abandoned. Marcus leaned against the machine, arms crossed, his voice dripping with sarcasm, careful not to break a nail. But Amara didn't rise to the bait. She was listening. Every machine had a story, and this one was screaming. The smell of burnt fuel, the uneven torque, the faint misalignment in the piston chambers. "Someone forced it," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "What did she say?" someone whispered. Marcus rolled his eyes. "She's stalling." But deep down his chest tightened, because the detail she noticed, the forced misalignment, was something even his best engineers had missed. As Amara worked, strange inconsistencies began to surface. She discovered that several bolts had been deliberately loosened. A fuel line was misconnected. Something so obvious, no professional would overlook it. And then, hidden deep inside the engine's core, she found scratches that looked intentional. She froze. This wasn't just a malfunction. Someone had sabotaged the engine. Her heart pounded. If she exposed this, she'd be stepping into a war far bigger, the arrogant vet. But if she stayed quiet, Marcus would walk away unchallenged. She tightened the final bolt, adjusted the fuel line, and stepped back. Started. Marcus scoffed, but the crowd roared for him to try. With exaggerated flair, he turned the ignition. The engine sputtered, groaned, and then roared to life. The entire hall shook with the force of its power. The gauges stabilized. The numbers climbed. The prototype was alive. The crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed wildly. Investors shouted in disbelief. Amara just folded her arms, expression calm. Marcus, however, stood frozen. His smirk was gone, his skin pale, because he knew what she had discovered. And if she spoke, everything could unravel. The cheers had barely died down when Amara spoke. This engine wasn't broken, she said clearly, her voice cutting through the noise. It was sabotaged. The room went silent. All eyes darted to Marcus. His face flushed red. That's ridiculous, he snapped. She's lying, looking for attention. But Amara reached into her pocket and held up her phone. Unknown to him, she had recorded her entire process. Every bolt she adjusted, every misplaced component she corrected. On the screen, the evidence was undeniable. Gasps echoed through the hall. Journalists scrambled to take notes. Investors muttered angrily. Marcus's empire was teetering and he knew it. He forced a smile, trying to mask his panic. So what if something was off? Engines fail all the time. That doesn't mean sabotage. But Amara wasn't finished. She stepped closer, locking eyes with him. Maybe, but the real question is, who stood to gain if this engine failed publicly? The color drained from his face. Because in that moment, Marcus realized she wasn't just a mechanic. She was a threat. Before Marcus could respond, security guards rushed into the hall. They whispered urgently in his ear, and his expression twisted with fear. One of the guards turned to Amara. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." The crowd buzzed with confusion. Was she being honored or silenced? Amara glanced at Marcus. His smirk was back, but this time it looked forced. She had fixed the engine. She had exposed the inconsistencies. She had proven her worth. But now, she was being led away, not celebrated. And deep down, she knew. She had just stepped into a conspiracy far more dangerous than she ever imagined. The question wasn't whether she would get her $500,000. The question was whether she'd make it out with her freedom or her life. The air in the private security room was colder than the expo floor. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed above as Amara was led inside. The crowd's cheers were now muffled, sealed behind thick glass. Two guards stood by the door. Across the table sat Marcus Crane, his arrogance stripped away. His hands drummed nervously on the metal surface. "Sit," one of the guards ordered. Amara dropped into the chair, crossing her arms. "What's this? You owe me $500,000. Or are you planning to cheat your way out of that too?" Marcus leaned forward, his voice low and sharp. "You don't know what you've just done." "Oh, I know exactly what I've done," she shot back. "I fixed your engine, and I exposed you." But Marcus shook his head slowly, almost pitying. "No, you've just made yourself a target." Marcus opened a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were photos, blurry surveillance images of men in expensive suits meeting in hotel rooms, passing briefcases, shaking hands. "These aren't just investors," he whispered. "They're, let's just say, people who don't like failure. My engine wasn't supposed to work today. Its failure was planned, controlled." Amara frowned, confusion mixing with suspicion. "You mean you sabotaged your own engine?" He slammed his fist on the table. "I didn't. Someone higher up did. Someone who wanted me discredited, my company stripped, and my research stolen. And now you've ruined their plan." Her chest tightened. "So that makes me the loose end." Marcus's silence was answer enough. The door creaked open, and a man in a sharp gray suit stepped in. His presence sucked the air from the room. Broad shoulders, slick back hair, and a scar tracing his jawline. "Miss Johnson," he said smoothly, ignoring Marcus entirely. "My name is Mr. Cade. I represent certain interested parties." He sat opposite her, folding his hands. "You are remarkably skilled. which is why I'm prepared to offer you a deal. Walk away. Delete your recording. Pretend this never happened. In exchange, we'll make you very rich. Amara's jaw tightened. And if I refuse? Cade's smile didn't reach his eyes. Accidents happen, especially to mechanics from small garages no one will miss. The guard shifted slightly, hands resting on their belts. For a heartbeat, fear clawed at her chest. But Amara forced herself to sit taller. Keep your blood money. I'm not for sale. Cade's smile vanished. He leaned in close. Then I suggest you start running. The next moment's blurred. Marcus shouted something she didn't catch. The guards moved to grab her. Instinct took over. Amara kicked her chair back, grabbed her wrench from her tool pouch, and swung hard. The first guard dropped with a groan. She shoved the second aside and bolted through the door. Alarms blared. Shouts echoed through the expo halls. Investors, engineers, and journalists scattered as security swarmed the building. Amara ran, weaving through the chaos, clutching her phone, the only proof of sabotage. She knew one thing. If she lost it, she lost everything. She ducked into a maintenance corridor, lungs burning. Her mind raced. Who could she trust? The expo was crawling with Marcus's enemies, Cade's men, and maybe even corrupt officials. Her phone buzzed suddenly. A text from an unknown number. I can help you. Loading bay now. Trust me, against her better judgment. She sprinted toward the loading bay. The concrete space was dimly lit, trucks humming in the shadows. And standing there was Marcus. Her steps faltered. You're the one who texted me. He raised his hands quickly. Listen, I'm not your enemy. I want this mess exposed as much as you do. If Cade and his people win, I'm finished. And so are you. Amara's grip tightened on her phone. Why should I trust you? Marcus took a shaky breath. Because I'm the only one who knows how deep this goes. Before she could reply, the screech of tires echoed. Black SUVs pulled up, doors flying open. Our men poured out. Cade's voice thundered across the bay. Too slow, Miss Johnson. Gunshots rang out. Marcus grabbed Amara's arm. Move. They sprinted between crates as bullets sparked against the metal. Adrenaline surged through her veins. Her heart hammered like a drum. They dove into a side exit, bursting into the night air. Houston's skyline glimmered in the distance, but freedom was miles away. Marcus pointed to a motorcycle chained near the wall. Amara didn't hesitate. She smashed the lock with her wrench, jumped on, and roared the engine to life. Get on, she shouted. Marcus climbed behind her, just as Cade's men spilled into the alley. Tires screeched. Headlights flared. The chase was on. The motorcycle tore through the city, weaving between cars, dodging traffic lights, while SUVs thundered behind them. Marcus leaned close to her ear, shouting over the wind. You want the truth? Here it is. That engine, they wanted it to fail, so they could sell the patent overseas. Billions of dollars. National security. If it worked, America would control the market. If it failed, foreign buyers would swoop in. Amara's stomach dropped. This wasn't just business rivalry. This was treason. So Cade's not just some investor, she yelled back. Marcus's voice cracked. He's a middleman, and if we don't stop him, you and I are both dead. They skidded into an abandoned warehouse, the bike screeching to a halt. For a brief moment, silence fell. Amara jumped off, pacing. So let me get this straight. You built an engine that could change the world. Someone sabotaged it. I fixed it. And now we're both targets in a billion-dollar conspiracy. Marcus nodded grimly. Exactly. Before she could reply, the warehouse lights flickered on. Cade stood in the center, flanked by armed men. His smile was cold. End of the road. Amara's pulse spiked. She clutched her phone tighter. The recording was still running. The proof was in her hand. Cade stepped forward, extending his palm. Give me the phone. You walk away alive. Her throat tightened. Marcus whispered, Don't. If he gets that, it's over. Cade's eyes narrowed. Choose, Miss Johnson. Money or a grave. The room fell into a deadly silence. Amara raised the phone slowly. Her hand trembled. Then She smashed it against the concrete. The screen shattered. Sparks flew. Everyone froze. Cade blinked in shock. Marcus gasped, and Amara whispered, "You really think I keep the only copy on me?" Cade's face twisted with rage. "Where is it?" he snarled. Amara's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Somewhere you'll never find it." Gun barrels rose. Men stepped forward. Marcus grabbed her arm, eyes wide with fear. The warehouse filled with tension thick enough to choke. Cade gave a single order: kill them both. The sound of safeties clicking off echoed like a death drum. Amara closed her eyes for half a second, whispering a prayer. And then, an explosion tore to the far wall. Blinding light, shattering glass, screams of men. As the dust settled, a shadowy figure stepped through the smoke, and Amara froze, because the person standing there was the last face she ever expected to see. The warehouse roared with flames and smoke, men coughing and shouting in panic. Debris rained from the ceiling as Amara shielded her face. Through the haze, a figure emerged. Boots crunched against broken glass. A hood was pulled low, but when the figure raised their head, Amara's heart stopped. "Lydia," she whispered. Her sister, her estranged sister, stood in the light of the explosion, the one who had disappeared 5 years ago without a trace. Lydia's eyes locked on hers, fierce and unyielding, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stormed a tactical team, black-clad and armed with military precision. "Get them out," Lydia barked, her voice slicing through the chaos. Gunfire erupted again, this time from the tactical squad. Cade's men fell one by one. Amara was frozen, disbelief warring with relief. Lydia was alive, and she was fighting for her. The sisters were hustled behind a pillar as Marcus crouched beside them, face pale with terror. Amara grabbed Lydia's arm, eyes wide. "Where have you been? Why are you—" "No time." Lydia cut her off. "We're not safe." "Not yet." But Amara pulled back, shaking her head. "No, you don't disappear for years. Let me think you're dead, then show up in the middle of a gunfight like nothing happened." Lydia's gaze softened for a fleeting moment. "I didn't have a choice. I've been undercover, tracking men like Cade." Amara's breath caught. It all clicked. The secrecy, the silence, the sudden vanishing. Lydia wasn't running. She was fighting. Marcus interrupted, voice trembling. "That's great and all, but unless you have an exit plan, we're all dead." Lydia reloaded her pistol with calm precision. "Exit's already in motion. Just stay behind me." The tactical squad cleared a path, but Cade was relentless. He retreated deeper into the warehouse, dragging a steel briefcase with him. His men covered his escape, firing blindly as they moved. Amara's eyes narrowed. He's running with evidence. Lydia caught her expression. "Amara, don't." But it was too late. Amara bolted from cover, weaving between crates. She wasn't letting him vanish. Not after everything. "Amara," Lydia shouted, chasing after her. Marcus followed reluctantly, cursing under his breath. They tore through the labyrinth of metal beams and broken machinery, the sound of Cade's boots echoing ahead. The chase was no longer about money. It was about truth. They cornered Cade at the far end of the warehouse. Flames licked the walls, smoke curling into the rafters. He stood panting, briefcase chained to his wrist. His eyes glowed with fury. "You don't understand what you're interfering with," he snarled. "This isn't just business. This is control of the future." Amara stepped forward, voice steady despite the fear. "No, this is greed, and it ends tonight." Lydia raised her gun. "Drop it, Cade." But Cade smiled a twisted, venomous smile. He held up a small detonator in his other hand. "You shoot me, this whole place goes up." The briefcase, Amara realized with horror, wasn't just holding documents. It was wired. A tense silence gripped the room. Smoke billowed. The faint ticking of machinery filled the air. Cade sneered. "You think you're heroes? You're pawns. You've been pawns since the moment you stepped in." Marcus muttered, "He's bluffing," but Amara shook her head. "No, he's not." Her mind raced. The detonator. The briefcase. If he walked out, lives far beyond theirs were at risk. Lydia whispered, "I'll take the shot." But Amara's gaze locked on Cade's hand. His thumb hovered over the button. One wrong twitch, and, without thinking, she lunged forward. Everything slowed. The world shrank to the wrench still tucked in her belt. In one motion, she hurled it like a blade. The wrench struck Cade's wrist with a sickening crack. The detonator clattered to the floor. Lydia fired. The bullet slammed into Cade's shoulder, spinning him backward. The briefcase hit the ground with a heavy thud. Sparks fizzed, wires exposed. Then silence. Marcus rushed forward, scooping up the briefcase. Relief flooded Amara's chest until she saw the look in his eyes. Cold, calculated. Finally, Marcus breathed, clutching it to his chest. "Everything I've worked for." Amara froze. "What are you doing?" He turned to her, lips curling into a smirk. "Did you really think I was a victim here?" Cade was sloppy. "I was just waiting for the right moment to take back what's mine." Her heart sank. All the running, the fighting, it was never about survival for him. It was about power. Lydia raised her gun again. "Drop it, Marcus." But Marcus snapped the briefcase open, revealing not just documents, but drives, blueprints, technology worth billions. "This," Marcus whispered, eyes alight, "will make me untouchable." Sirens wailed in the distance. The warehouse trembled, half collapsing under the weight of fire. Amara stepped forward slowly, voice trembling with fury. "You're no better than him. All this time, you let me believe you cared about the truth, about justice." Marcus laughed. "Justice? Justice doesn't pay. Power does." Then he turned to run. Amara didn't think. She grabbed a fallen pipe and swung with all her strength. The metal cracked against his back, sending him sprawling. The briefcase slid across the floor, landing at Lydia's feet. Marcus groaned, trying to crawl, but Lydia planted her boot on his hand, gun aimed at his skull. "You're done," she spat. The roof groaned above them, beams snapping, sparks raining. Amara grabbed the briefcase, hugging it tight. "We have to move. Now." Lydia yanked Marcus up by his collar, dragging him along despite his protests. Together, the sisters sprinted toward the exit as fire swallowed the warehouse hole. They burst into night air just as the structure gave one final, deafening roar. The building collapsed in a tidal wave of flame and steel. Cade was gone. Marcus was in custody. The briefcase was safe. For the first time in days, Amara felt the faintest flicker of peace. Weeks later, Amara sat before a congressional panel. Cameras flashed. Reporters filled the room. She laid everything bare: the sabotage, the conspiracy, the chase. The evidence in the briefcase spoke louder than her words ever could. Marcus Crane was charged with conspiracy and treason. Cade's network was dismantled. The technology was secured under government protection. But the headlines weren't about them. They were about her. Local mechanic exposes billion-dollar conspiracy. After the storm, Amara stood outside her small garage again. The world was quieter now. Lydia leaned against the wall, finally home after years undercover. "You did it," Lydia said softly. Amara shook her head. "We did it." Her gaze drifted to her tools, the same ones she'd used when no one believed in her, when the world laughed at the idea of a black woman fixing machines. And she smiled. "People will doubt you. They'll try to bury you. They'll laugh in your face," she said, her voice carrying both fire and grace. "But the truth? Your worth isn't defined by their doubt. It's proven by your persistence, by the fight you don't quit." Lydia placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've always been stronger than you think." Amara's eyes shone with quiet pride. She had come into this battle a mechanic. She walked out a symbol. Months later, a new sign gleamed above her garage. Johnson Engineering and Mechanics. Built on truth, driven by integrity. Young girls from the neighborhood stopped by, wide-eyed, asking her questions about engines, about machines. She taught them with patience, showing them that knowledge was power no one could steal. And every time she held a wrench, every time she tightened a bolt, she remembered the night when the world laughed at her and how she turned that laughter into silence. Because sometimes the loudest victory is proving them wrong. If this story inspired, support our channel, like and subscribe for more interesting and powerful stories.